All right, yesterday's video was kind of just the intro into what I plan on doing with the channel and stuff like that. Today I want to kind of touch on just the story of my life and kind of like how I got to this point, just so everyone has a little bit of background, so you kind of understand a little bit of how I got here and just help things make a little more sense, I guess. This morning my wife had made a comment about, she's like, "You gonna make a video every single day?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Don't you think you're gonna run out of stuff to talk about?" I don't think this conversation is gonna be solved in a handful of YouTube videos. So no, I don't think I'm gonna run out of issues to talk about. But I do have a question. Do you guys want to see longer content? Do you guys want to see 20, 30-minute long videos? Do you guys want to see 10-minute videos? I can drone on for hours and hours and hours. Me personally, I know when I see a video that's over 10, 20 minutes, I don't really stop and listen to it unless it's like a podcast or something I really want to listen to, and it's 3 hours long, I'll listen to it. So I don't know. A little bit of feedback will help. I'm going to start picking specific topics out of videos to touch on going forward after I do this little brief history of my life. So, brief history of my life. Born and raised Southern California, back when it was beautiful. I've got to be honest, the story's going to be a little disappointing. There's no crazy trauma. There's no pretty normal life. There's no that one bad summer with an uncle. I think my trauma came from somewhere else, and we're going to touch on that. But yeah, growing up in Southern California, things were good. I played sports relatively early, basketball, got into skateboarding. I wasn't really a big team sport player. And now that I've been coaching my kids' soccer team and now baseball team, I kind of understand where team sports can play a huge role in a kid's life. All the sports I did growing up were independent: skateboarding, BMX, dirt bikes. Like, I could wake up at noon and grab my skateboard. I didn't have to be at a game at 6 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays. I can wake up whenever the hell I wanted. So I think that discipline is good, unfortunately, which I'm not huge on forced responsibilities, I guess you could say. So, growing up in Southern California, things were good. One early, I guess you could say, traumatic event in my life. My grandma lived with us for a long time when I was younger, and I was very close with her, and she passed when I was about 10. And that hurt. And that's really when I started becoming an adolescent kid. And a lot of the teachers and therapists or whatever, counselors, were like, he's just lashing out because he's upset. He's mad about his, sad about his grandma. And some of it was true. 100% true. 100% true. I think I leaned on it a lot as an excuse to be a bad kid. I think more of my issues were just being forced responsibility. Being forced to go do something every day that I couldn't stand. I could not stand being in school. On top of, embarrassing, I wasn't good at reading, writing. A teacher would call on me and it'd be embarrassing because I couldn't read, the text or whatever. But give me a project. Tell me I need to build this ramp. Give me a measuring tape and a hammer, and I can knock anything out. That's what interested me as a kid, was making things with my hands. My whole life, I knew very early on that my job would be something with my hands, building something with my hands. And it's great. You just can't do it forever. And a big setback like a drug addiction or a divorce or a bad accident, it doesn't take much to derail your life's vision. My dad, he was a great dad. He's a very gentle man, maybe to a fault, but he was an awesome person. He didn't fish, he didn't hunt, wasn't into anything that I was into. But when he had a time to take me fishing, he got up 5 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and hauled my ass to Lake Paris. He was a great man. He did everything he could. He did everything right. I have nothing bad to say about him. Absolutely nothing bad to say about him. Maybe he could have been a little more stern. But that was my mom. My mom was the ball buster. You know, and then just normal adolescent teens shit, getting in trouble. You know, I've eventually just told him, you know, caused enough problems to where going to high school was like not even an option. They were just like, we're going to homeschool him, which basically turned into, I'm dropped out of school now, you know. Kind of just entered in the workforce and went on with my life. Partied too much. You know, I was the guy that was just rowdy. I drank too much. You know, I used to say that I'm a recovering alcoholic. But I don't really think I was an alcoholic. I just went too hard. I just drank too much. I just partied too hard. I just took it too far. And we had Seth, Janelle and I, we met. We had Seth. And I finally quit. I think Seth was about 2 years old. So here's another 10 years. Seems like there's always this 10-year cycle. Seth was about 2 years old, and I finally got my shit together there and quit drinking. And then, yeah, doctor prescribed me opiates for a back issue. At the time, it was easy to go into a doctor's office. You know, there's no way for them to gauge pain. You know, you can go in there and be like, it's at 1,000,000. It hurts so bad right now. And they'll be like, okay, here's your pills. It's kind of a joke. But that's going to be conversations later on in this series of stuff. Start taking painkillers. You know, you don't think that the doctor's going to give you something at that time. You know, we're talking, this is a long time ago, 15 years ago, at least. At that time, I guess I was just naive enough to be like, you know, everybody was like, how did you get hung up on these pills? You over-research everything you do. I'm like, I didn't think I had to research this because the damn doctor gave it to me. That's what his job was. That's what his job was to do the research. You're supposed to trust them. Anyways. And then, like, you know, the story's the same. You know, I took pills. Eventually, the doctors, it was harder to get from the doctors. Heroin was cheaper and easier to find. Crazy. And started using heroin. Smoking it at first, and then eventually, like all of us, you cave and you start shooting intravenously. And it's crazy for me is because I have a huge fear of needles. A huge fear of needles. I actually got arrested with needles. And when they took me to the jail to take my blood, the nurse was baffled that I was so squirmy at her trying to draw my blood. I hate needles. But you're willing to do a lot of things. You're willing to cross a lot of bridges you never thought you would when you become an addict. Let me tell you. It's tough. Yeah. And then, you know, at the time, then we had Troy. Here's another 10 years. It's going to be a reoccurring theme in my life. There's these 10-year cycles. There's going to be a whole video on this. Had Troy, and I want to say Troy was about 2 or 3 when I finally reached out to get help. I went to a rehab, which I don't want to say rehabs don't work. The right rehabs work, is what I will say. But like anything, you know, a rehab's like, hey, you got to, you know, ask for forgiveness and surrender to a higher power and quit doing drugs. But I could just tell you that, and if you just listen to me, you'd be sober, right? Right? It's not that easy. Not that easy. There's a lot that needs to change to get sober. I went to rehab, didn't work. I think it didn't work because I ended up befriending a handful of the guys from rehab, and then we hung out outside of rehab, and all those guys relapsed, so then I relapsed. And then I got arrested with one of those guys. Yeah. And then I went to jail for about a week, maybe 4 days. I don't know. Long enough. It sucked. I was going through withdrawals. Terrible. My wife wouldn't bail me out because my aunt and my attorney and my mom actually quit answering my phone calls. Which at the time, obviously, I was irate and furious, but it was for the best. Got out of jail. I think I stayed sober for a little bit. Ended up using it again. And then I finally just had another breakdown and was like, I really need to get sober. I need to do something that'll help me stay off the drugs long enough. Stay off the drugs long enough to like kind of rebuild my life. You know, like when you become a drug addict, there's one thing people don't realize. When you become a drug addict, you kind of forget how to function like you used to. You know, like your priorities are so skewed as an addict. It's like, I got to get up, I got to get high, I got to find my dealer, I got to find money, and then I got to find my deal. You know what I mean? Like your priorities are messed up. But like when you wake up and you're like, shit, I don't got to go scramble to get high or scramble to go find money or scramble to go get dope. It's weird. You know, it's weird. So it takes some time. So I used methadone. I used methadone for about a year. And when I went in, that's another conversation, is methadone and the methadone clinics and that whole system. But I had done so much research up to this point. I knew how they were going to operate. And I went in there like, you are not getting me hooked on another drug. I'm going to be on this stuff for a year. 1 year. That's it. And they're like, no, you're not. You're going to need to be on it for 2 years at a minimum. I was on it for a year. Period. And I got off. And now here we are. 10 years later. I'm going through it again. The third kid. And that seems to be this reoccurring theme. And I don't want y'all to think that my kids are the problem or that they've ever been a problem. I think I've made them an excuse to be a problem. And I think it just is just old programming of forced responsibility. Like, I don't want to be forced into this position. I love my kids to death. They are my world. And this didn't click with me until the other day. My wife and I were in an argument. And I was like, I'm the one that is making the issue every 10 years. I was blaming everybody else. So maybe that'll be the next video. Maybe the next video is these 10-year cycles and how I've kind of broken down what's happened, you know, in all these years and whatnot. I'm not going to record all my videos in my truck. It's been cold out here in Texas. I think I need to get like a tripod or something. I'm down at the lake right now, but you can't tell because it's cold outside and I don't have a tripod. So as I get better at this, as I progress, you know, I'll do more or different scenery and stuff and whatever. Yeah, put some input in the comments. Tell me how you guys would like to absorb this content, how I should format it better for everybody. Till next time.